At the heart of the Navy headquarters, where the air smelled of polished brass and authority, Mark Daniels pushed his cleaning cart down silent hallways. To everyone, he was just the janitor, quiet, polite, invisible. But behind his calm eyes hid a lifetime of memories he never wanted to revisit. Every morning, he greeted officers who never remembered his name. He fixed lights, scrubbed floors, and listened. He listened to the talk of strategy, operations, and pilots, and sometimes, when a code phrase echoed through the halls, something deep inside him stirred. Then one afternoon, chaos erupted. A sudden security breach alarm shattered the calm. Systems went offline, red lights flashed, and confusion filled the command center. Officers scrambled for direction, but Mark didn't hesitate. Moving faster than anyone expected, he started issuing instructions, sealing bulkhead doors, rerouting power, and using clearance codes that no janitor should have known. The Admiral stormed in, demanding answers. But as he heard Mark's voice call out a command, precise, disciplined, unmistakable, the Admiral froze. Slowly, he turned toward the janitor and whispered, "Eagle 1." The room went silent. Every officer stopped moving. The Admiral's eyes widened with disbelief. "That's impossible," he said under his breath. "Eagle 1 was lost years ago." Mark said nothing. He simply lowered his mop, his gaze steady. "Just doing my job, sir," he replied quietly. But the Admiral knew. That calm tone, that command under pressure, there was no mistaking it. The man mopping the floor wasn't just a janitor. He was the legendary pilot who once led the Navy's most secret mission, and vanished without a trace. That day, the janitor became the story no one could ignore. The day after the Admiral spoke the name Eagle 1, whispers spread through Navy headquarters like wildfire. Everyone wanted to know, who was this janitor who had frozen the Admiral mid-sentence? Some called it a coincidence. Others swore they saw fear, or respect, in the Admiral's eyes. In the quiet of his small apartment, Mark Daniels sat at his kitchen table, staring at an old photograph, a flight crew standing proudly beside a jet marked with the insignia of Operation Iron Wing. His face in that photo looked younger, sharper, alive. The operation had been top secret, wiped from official records after it went disastrously wrong. Many believed every pilot had perished. Mark had chosen to let the world think so. But the past wasn't done with him. That evening, a young intelligence officer named Lieutenant Harris knocked on his door, holding a classified folder. "Sir," Harris said nervously, "we found something. A foreign network accessed files from Iron Wing last night. Someone's trying to finish what they started." Mark's eyes narrowed. "Who else knows?" "Just the Admiral, and now me." Moments later, a car pulled up outside, unmarked, its lights off. Shadows moved inside it. Mark's instincts kicked in, he motioned Harris to kill the lights. Within seconds, bullets tore through the window. Mark pulled the young officer down, rolled across the floor, and drew a hidden sidearm from under the sink, the one he swore never to use again. As the attackers fled, Mark looked at the shattered photo on the ground. He knew what it meant, Operation Iron Wing wasn't over. Someone had awakened the ghosts of the past. And this time, Eagle 1 couldn't hide anymore. The next morning, the Navy headquarters was under lockdown. The Admiral had summoned Mark Daniels to his office, and for the first time in years, Mark walked those halls not as a janitor, but as a soldier. The Admiral stared at him in silence before sliding a folder across the desk. Inside were satellite images, encrypted transmissions, and one chilling detail, the same enemy squadron emblem from Operation Iron Wing. "They're back," the Admiral said grimly. "And they've stolen one of our stealth drones. We need someone who knows their tactics, someone who's already faced them." Mark looked down, torn between his duty and his son, Jake, who waited for him at home. "I'm not that man anymore," he said quietly. The Admiral leaned forward. "You were the best we ever had. And they're targeting our eastern defense line, the one near your boy's school. That hit harder than any bullet. Hours later, the air hangar roared to life. The sight of Eagle 1 stepping back into a flight suit sent ripples through the base. Young pilots whispered in disbelief as Mark climbed into the cockpit of an F-35, the call sign Eagle 1 flickering onto his HUD. Eagle 1, you are cleared for launch. The jet screamed off the runway, slicing through the clouds. Enemy drones appeared on radar, fast, precise, deadly. But Mark was faster. With surgical precision, he cut through them, his instincts sharper than ever. When the last drone exploded over the ocean, the control room erupted in cheers. One young pilot whispered, "The janitor just saved the fleet." Mark's breathing steadied. For the first time in years, he felt alive again, but he also knew this was only the beginning. Eagle 1 was back in the fight. That night, after the mission, Mark Daniels returned home exhausted but silent. His teenage son, Jake, noticed the bruises on his arms and the faraway look in his eyes. "Rough night cleaning floors?" Jake joked, but Mark only smiled faintly. He wished that were true. The next day, while Mark was out, Jake rummaged through a closet looking for his old baseball glove. Instead, he found a metal case buried under dusty uniforms. Inside were flight badges, medals, and a photograph labeled Operation Iron Wing, 2012. In the center stood his father, wearing a flight suit, smiling proudly, with the name Eagle 1 stitched on his chest. Jake's hands trembled. Everything he thought he knew about his dad collapsed. When Mark came home, Jake confronted him. "You lied to me," he shouted. "You were a pilot. A hero. Why pretend to be a janitor?" Mark's voice broke. "Because I lost everything that day, my team, my faith, your mother. I couldn't be that man anymore." Before Jake could respond, the base alarm sounded again, a hostile incursion alert. Mark grabbed his jacket and ran, but Jake followed him, determined not to be left behind. As they reached the perimeter, explosions lit the night sky. When enemy agents breached the outer fence, Mark didn't hesitate. He shielded Jake, taking command of nearby guards, barking orders with flawless precision. The Admiral arrived moments later and witnessed the truth, Eagle 1 in command once again. After the attack was contained, Jake stood beside his father in stunned silence. "You're not just my dad," he said softly. "You're a legend." Mark looked at him with weary eyes. "No, son. I'm just a man trying to make things right." That night, Jake finally understood the weight of Eagle 1's silence. A week after the attack, tension gripped Navy headquarters. The Admiral called an emergency briefing. A foreign cyber unit had infiltrated the Navy's defense network, threatening to disable missile systems across the coast. Every second counted. Mark Daniels, Eagle 1, stood silently in the corner, now wearing his old uniform for the first time in over a decade. The Admiral turned to him. "You started this fight years ago," he said. "Now, you're the only one who can end it." Mark's plan was bold, and dangerous. The hackers were using a stealth vessel offshore to mask their location. To stop them, Mark would have to lead a split operation, an airstrike to take out the ship's signal relays, and a simultaneous ground infiltration to capture the enemy commander alive. As the mission began, storm clouds rolled in. Mark led the aerial team through lightning and rain, maneuvering his jet with precision only a legend could command. Meanwhile, Jake, now an authorized base assistant, monitored his father's flight from the control room, pride and fear battling in his eyes. Suddenly, the mission took a dark turn. An enemy missile locked onto Mark's jet. With only seconds to react, he transmitted the final coordinates to his team and shouted over comms, "Finish the job." Then he pulled his jet skyward, drawing the missile away from the fleet. The explosion lit the night sky. Silence followed. Back at base, Jake stood frozen as the Admiral saluted. "He saved thousands," the Admiral said solemnly. "Eagle 1's mission is complete." Weeks later, a new plaque appeared at Navy HQ. Commander Mark Eagle 1 Daniels, a father. A pilot. A hero. His call sign became a legend, whispered with reverence across every deck and sky.